Anyway, welcome to Lunch Break, everybody. Different kind of lunch break this week. We got the pastoral staff here. We're gonna do kind of like a pastoral roundtable interview-esque kind of thing. We do have cookies as well because we want to remind you about Cookies with the Calls that are coming up. This is Josh Call, our new pastor to students. We'll get a chance to hear from him in a minute. But this coming Sunday, Cookies with the Calls. Did I say it? I did.
You did say it
twice in a row.
You got it.
Sunday, I could not get those words out of my mouth. Like it was this bizarro, like
Two C's.
I don't even know what it was. And I said it fine afterwards. And apparently everybody backstage was going, dude, Cookies with the Calls. Yeah. Cookies with the Calls. It's not hard. But I was really like, I don't even know what it was. Anyway, so we got that. This is coming Sunday right after second service. We want all of you to join us. Ryan is not having any cookies.
Yeah.
He has launched a new diet.
I literally said, don't talk about this.
I know, which is exactly why I'm talking about this, because it makes it so much more fun. Because he started this whole new diet thing, and he can only drink black coffee. Mm-hmm. What else is in?
I can only have like meat and fruit.
Meat and fruit. Chicken breast with the calls.
There you go. I will get to eat 3 of them because that's what it says.
That's all he can eat, though.
Like Amanda gets to have 1 chicken thigh and then all her vegetables, and I get 3 chicken thighs and nothing else. And that's great.
Okay, so it's like a carnivore thing?
Basically, yeah. She said I couldn't handle the carnivore because she gets to decide that for me. Sorry, man, I love you. But yeah, here we are.
Okay. So Ryan, basically, long story short, Ryan's going to be angry for about 2.5 months, I think, is really what it's gonna boil down to. He's just gonna be mad at everybody for a couple of months.
I just want a cookie, dude. It's right there. We haven't had lunch yet.
Okay. So anyway, so we'll try not to tantalize him too bad with the cookies, but that's kind of like a little prop. So that's one of our announcements. But I don't want to do a ton of announcements today. I really want to get a chance to just talk to you guys, for us, kind of like a pastoral staff to talk, because that was the original thought process behind Lunch Break. The original genesis of this whole thing was to give kind of just a backstage inside look at, hey, here's what church is on the inside. Like, this is some of the organizational structures. Here's some of the stuff that people don't know about. If all you do is roll up on a Sunday and say, okay, great, that was a great worship service. Oftentimes you don't know what goes into that. Yeah. And sometimes you don't want to nor need to know any of those things, which is fair. But there's so much more to church than just that Sunday morning experience, especially for us on this side of the coin. And so that's a lot of what Lunch Break has always kind of tried to be. And so I wanted to do that with you guys, and just let people hear your hearts a bit. We're going to talk just a little bit about some of your stories, your backstory, how you got into ministry, some things that have surprised you about ministry, some things you love about ministry, just those kinds of things. So I'm going to kick it over. I'm going to ask, this is a question for all 3 of you guys. I'm going to start with Pastor Stacy first. Just briefly, give us a kind of that story of how did you get into ministry? How did you know you were called to ministry? Kind of talk to us a little bit about some of that.
Yeah, so for me, my story is kind of like a lot of pastors in my time, and around our age and stage of life.
Yeah.
You have the older generation that kind of points that out, that you have this calling on your life, and then you go a different direction, saying no, I would love to, but that's not who I am, And then you come back full circle to it, and you say, well, I can see why God allowed me, even guided me to some of the detours in my life, to show me how to do people, to show me how to do this, to make me, because if I would have said, okay, I agree with you, and I went full on into it without the detours in my life, I would have messed it up royally, and I would have been no good to anyone. Sure. But some of those things he showed me how to do well, and people is the number one thing. But one of the things that I find a challenge today is technology. Technology is great and how you use it, but it's just, again, you have to learn how to use it.
Yeah.
And so the reach and the quality is outstanding, but, I have these grand memories of, just the paper and the book and, but that's not realistic because you have so many more people, in the quality of the message and the sound and everything like that. And so for me, I have to remember that these are enhancements that God has allowed to come about. And the study of ministry, like the schooling versus during our time, the things that some of these young people, bringing in, all the different, oh my goodness, I look at it and I was like, wow, if had I had that, had some of that training, the product that I could be now even. And so, I enjoy seeing the progression of ministry over the years and the approach to it.
Yeah, it's definitely different than when I got into it 30 years ago.
Yes, sir.
All right, so Ryan, what about you, man? How did you? What was that call to ministry? How did you know you wanted to do this vocationally? Just kind of what was that?
Yeah. I got dragged into it by, if anybody remembers, Todd Fernier and Bob Nunez.
Oh man,
were
names
on
I have not heard.
Yeah, I know, right?
Right.
I think we were on a CIY trip actually, and they were like, "Man, you got to do this. Like we see it in your life." Same thing you were saying. Like they pulled me and said, "We see the calling for you," because I'm a teenager back then, and I was like, I don't want to do any of that. This stinks. I only come because my parents make me. And through all of that, it was like, well, I do love music and I do love worship. Let's try. Let's see what that's like. And from there, going to like Point University for a little bit, and also then having secular jobs at the same time, I was like, this just feels like home. It feels like the place that I would want to be. Being in ministry is just an incredible experience. And when God gives you a gift, you use that gift. And I was like, this is the thing I like to do. It's the thing that if I was home alone by myself, nobody around, I'm going to sing and play guitar and do worship. That's the calling. That's God being like, that's what I want you to do. So that's how I got into it. Yeah.
Very cool. All right, what about you, Josh?
Yeah, so I sort of similar to Ryan, feel like I got dragged into ministry or stumbled into ministry. So I had grown up in the church out in California and, grew up with amazing, believing parents and kind of in a Christian household and came up through youth ministry and all of those things. But my faith didn't really become my own until I was in college. And
where did you go to college that first, like, where did you go to school?
Yeah, so I went to Pace University. So Pace is in New York. They've got a couple of campuses, but my campus was in Manhattan. And at the time, I wanted to study acting. So that had been the thing that I loved to do through middle and high school. And so I went to college at Pace because I figured I either have to be in LA or have to be in New York. And this is a kind of an opportunity to live in New York basically for free. Yeah. And so, or at least my parents were paying for it. And
not free at all.
Yeah. Free for me. But so I went out there and that was where God really took hold of my life. And my discipleship really started in earnest after I graduated college. I moved back to LA to be close to my family, got plugged back in at the church that I had been as a kid. And it was there where I started serving and was around other believers who were my age and who took it seriously. And so one of the things that our associate pastor always used to say is ministry makes room for itself. And so,
I like that.
Yeah. And so for me, in just saying, sure, I'll show up. You need someone at Vacation Bible School. I can help out. Oh, you need someone to, teach once a month for kids ministry. I can do that. Oh, you need someone to, clean out toilets. I can do that. And after a year or two, still, pursuing, acting and writing and doing other things in the entertainment industry, after a couple of years, our associate pastor, in concert with the other pastors, he said, hey, we really think that this is something that God has for you. Would you be willing to step in for a year as the student ministry director at our church? And so I didn't want to do it. I had these designs of being, famous actor, screenwriter, movie star, but prayed about it and had a couple of people who didn't know about the job offer kind of give me confirmation in that time. And, I said yes. And God just kept opening doors over the course of a couple of years and really stirring my heart toward ministry until about 2 years ago. And then that was the point where I went, I think that this is the thing. I think I need to kind of hang up some of those other desires and ambitions and sort of like relegate them to the category of hobby and then take this ministry thing that God keeps opening doors in and invest the rest of my life into it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I love that about, I mean, I don't know, and everybody's story, there was somebody or a group of somebody's, a church, whatever, that said, I see in you something maybe you're not interested in for you yet. And was able to draw that out and pull some of that out of us. And so that's pretty cool how that works. I think, I'm always nervous, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I've met some of those people who are like, yeah, I know that I'm supposed to be in ministry. Nobody else thinks I should be, but I know I
It's
should.
a red flag,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Right. That's it. I've met enough of those though, like over the years kind of thing. So, okay. So, all right. So none of you really had that aspirations. It wasn't like, from birth, you didn't, nobody, or you're a pastor's kid, right?
No.
No,
now.
so now you are. 'Cause but none of the rest of you, none of us. My parents were in ministry, whatever. So I didn't grow up in, that kind of. It's not a family industry kind of thing, and so it kind of came to it. God brought you to it, obviously, clearly. What has been the biggest surprise about ministry and doing ministry vocationally? What has been the thing that has surprised you the most about the job? Maybe like versus what you thought it was going to be. Anybody want to jump in and talk about that? Like the biggest, like you're like, whoa, I didn't think I'd have to do that. Okay, I guess that's what it is. Like any surprises?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think I was surprised at how messy it can be.
Yeah.
I think that just as a faith community, we invite people to be real and vulnerable and raw with the stuff that they're going through, and to counsel them through that and that kind of thing. And a lot of times people can come in with hurts or associations that they have from previous churches
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I've run into a few instances over the years where maybe there's different leaders in the church or whatever who are disputing or whatever, and where there may not be even a bad guy in a situation, but it's two or multiple good, godly people who are committed to the church and committed to their community and committed to following God, but who just are for whatever reason kind of bringing their hurts into a difficult situation. And so it's just tough. I was kind of going into ministry with a little bit of an expectation where, the Bible's super clear about what's right and wrong, and, there's good and bad, and then kind of getting into the weeds and realizing that, that can be true, and also everybody's a mixed bag, and,
Right.
that kind of thing.
For sure. It's messy. Like I remember Carrie, and I don't know if your wives have experienced this as well, but she was never on the inside of church growing up as a kid. She grew up non-faith-filled home. Her parents were nominal Catholics, but in name only. They would go on Christmas. So no faith in the home. And then she comes to Christ when she's in college, and she was a congregant. She attended church, and all she saw was the Sunday. And this is amazing. Everybody loves Jesus. And then we get married, and she starts seeing sign of the inside. It's like, wow, people are messy and broken. And that was hard for her.
Yeah.
It was really tough because you don't expect the mess. We should.
Yeah, we should.
But we don't. So it's okay.
Yeah.
So what about Stacy?
I used to think, how can some people be duped? You hear the stories of pastors, mostly in the prosperity line, pull, kind of pull the wool over people's eyes, and the wolves in sheep clothing, and through a lot of different faith groups that I've explored, you see that, but I realized that access, there's really no other, I don't want to call it vocation because ministry can be vocational. Is bivocational, but there's no other, kind of pursuit in the world, that you can have so much access. It doesn't matter socioeconomics. It doesn't matter, spiritual conviction. when you are accepted as, in that role as pastor, people want to be open. And so they open up and they be vulnerable in a way, willingly, not wooed by or not, and not even, you can't really, bribe your way in. People do that because they feel that there's a special, anointing on the person from God. And so they open themselves up, and I really respect and try to honor that, and I really respect and honor, pastors that do respect those boundaries, because people can be so open to where they don't see any boundaries. I mean, literally, I've met people that know what's mine is yours, keys to homes, everything, whatever you need, and all in. And so often, you when people wander into Northwest and other places that we've been, they've been trampled on, and people haven't honored those that respect that and know the access that they have, and it's very it cuts you deep to see the hurt, when people come in, and then it's hard to get them to open back up again. Right. So the access is the thing that shocked me the most, of how people are so willing to open up, to people, that come in the name of God.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, what about you as the worship pastor? I tell people all the time, I think the worship pastor role is the hardest job in ministry, because music is so intensely personal, more so than so many other things. So I'm curious, from your perspective, what's been the biggest surprise for you stepping into ministry?
Well, I mean, honestly, you guys have kind of touched on it throughout all of that. Really, it's just been, I thought that you had to be a pastor, that you had to be a scholar and a doctor. Like, that was the presentation that I was always given is, oh, you sit in your office all week and you study, and then you come and you distill the information that God gave you, and then everybody leaves and you're done. And that's never what happens throughout the week. So especially in worship, there's a lot of study involved in that, going over whatever we're doing with the sermon series, preparing the music, but it's all relational. Yeah. Everything ends up being about the relationships, because are you pastoring your team? Are you pastoring your church? Are you pastoring the kids that you're just worshiping with? And I get to be involved in the youth group. I get to be involved in Sunday service, Bible study, life groups, all of that's happening. Yeah. And because we are the pastors, that access is available, right? They want to hear from us, or at least just be heard half the time. And so what becomes the biggest part of the job that I never thought was going to be the big part is, are you spending time with the people? Not just from the pulpit, not just from a platform, but are you actually living life with them? Yeah. And I was always like, oh yeah, it's just, I do my job and I go home. Even all the stuff during the week is going to be study, practice, right? Do the job. No. It's so much more about, can I and are we getting into people's lives with them? Are we doing life together? I never would have thought that before I got into ministry.
Sure.
That was so important.
That's cool. I love that. That's great thoughts. Okay, so tough question. Hardest part of ministry? Hardest thing? What's the hardest part? Anybody? All right, Stacey, come on.
Work-life balance.
Work-life balance, yeah. Okay.
It almost feels like, sacrilegious to not give as 1,000%. But then, it's not like family and everything else is an afterthought. But, sometimes you get so immersed into doing the job, you care and you love people so hard, and you look forward, it's like, you see what God is doing, and God gives you this vision, and you want everybody to get there, and that He's giving you these pathways, and you want everybody to kind of see it. And so you get immersed in what you do, but then, some things may fall by the wayside. So you have to, find a balance, and that's hard for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, your job is your family, right? That's what it becomes.
Yeah.
So all your social events are tied to your job.
Absolutely.
All your family events become tied to your job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What else? Josh, Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think for me, it's a challenge when all of us are in a stage ministry to not have your sense of how well a service went, an event went, or something like that, to be tied to kind of outward metrics.
Yeah.
And so if there's an event where you're expecting 50 people or 100 people and there's half the number that you expect, then it's hard not to internalize that as, well, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
How it becomes a reflection of, my study or the quality of the event or my character or something like that. And I think that it's really hard to not just say, okay, I'm going to do everything that I can for the event or the sermon or the worship set or whatever, and then trust that God is the one who is responsible for bringing the people and preparing their hearts and seeing the seed that's being planted take root and bear fruit. And I think for me, too often, I will sort of look at the fruit of an event or whatever and kind of sort of try to take on more responsibility for the outcome of it than I probably should, rather than saying, you know what, Lord, I've given you everything that I can in this, and I've worked as hard to make this thing the best thing that I can and invest of myself into it. And then beyond that, I just need to trust you that the right number of people came to this or were impacted by it or whatever. There's a buddy of mine who I remember I've kind of internalized this thing that he said, the ones who come are the ones who count. And just kind of taking that and holding it in those moments when it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah.
When it feels like, man, if only twice as many people would have come, then I would feel like the sermon was good or the event was good or whatever.
Well, I think both of you guys hit on like some connected things there of, you have that feeling and you can't help it. That's human, right? To look and go, there's less people than I thought. What did I do wrong? It must be on me. So then it flips over to, well, if I just put in a little more, we'll get more return. And then, okay, well, you know what? If I just sacrifice my family just one more day, then I'll see these results. And then the results don't come. Oh, okay, well, all right. So now I'll do one more day. And it just they compound on each other, and it becomes like this cycle of just yuckiness. And it's amazing how that works.
I've seen so many people, use that, reaping and sowing in a perverted way. If
for
I,
sure.
then he will. Well, it's we plant
Some truth in that.
or water, and he provides the increase, whatever that looks like, and in his own time. So yeah,
Yeah.
So it's not if they build it, they will come.
that's right.
But see, but I think some of the danger is there is some truth in that.
It is.
You can't just sit back and go, all right, well, God, bring some people. I mean, I set the table, so whatevs. Like you do. There is effort. We put in our best. We give all that we can, whatever, and then it does bear fruit. Yeah. Our church is a representation of the building that we are in was the first new church building that had been built in this area in decades. Wow. And so when Northwest opened this building, the Sunday prior, when they were still meeting in a school, the church was about 150 people, 175 people. The Sunday they opened, there's 400 people here. Wow. So more than doubled because they built it and they came. Yeah. And so there's, let's build some more and then we'll get some more. And there's some truth in that. And so I think that's what feeds some of that is like, yeah, well, if you do make some more phone calls and you sacrifice your family a little bit more, maybe you'll get 3 more people that show up or whatever. But at what cost?
Exactly.
And I think that's tough.
Once I had a Christmas event that we did at a church, and it became like my baby. Like I was the one who had to put all of it together. And we did everything we could to make sure everybody knew about it. It got talked about from the pulpit on Sundays. We made graphics, everything you could think of. And like 50 people showed up. And I mean, we had like 7 to 10 acts of like, these people are going to get up and play saxophone solos. And then this one's going to come and we had a lady play the harpsichord and everything. And I was like, sorry, not harpsichord, the harp. And I was like,
that's cool.
We worked really hard. And we
For 50 people.
We brought a message, and 50 people came. And I internalized that so deeply that I was like, this is my fault because I was doing all of this over here. I wasn't working on relationships. I got to go work more on relationships. And there was probably some truth, a little bit.
Right.
But man, did I go the opposite way over the deep end of now I'm going to spend all my time trying to build that. And by doing that, for like a month or two, did not have like a home life or anything else going on.
Yeah.
I was just working.
Yeah.
And then I burnt out of it for a while. I was like, I need to take a break for a little
Yeah.
bit. So it's a scary thing. You got to balance as best you can,
Mm-hmm.
both relationships, ministry, and your home life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. All right. So, other side of that coin, best part of ministry, best part about the job. Like, you know, what is it that just, yeah, that's good. Like, what is it?
Baptisms.
Yeah.
100%. It is baptisms. That was to the first question about what's something that surprised you. I think the first time that I baptized one of my students who I had been ministering to for a couple of years
Yeah.
was, I mean, just profoundly emotional experience for me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'll tear up talking about it right now. Because just seeing a
cookie.
student who
Okay. All right. We got cookies. If,
I'll wipe my eyes with the cookies. But no, just seeing these students who you've poured so much energy and hope and prayer into with this desire. God, would you move in this kid's heart? Would you grow in this kid's heart? Would you kind of draw them after Jesus? And seeing a student at 13 or 14 or 15 make this decision that I'm gonna awkwardly stand up in front of my whole church. And at our old church, they would have people who get baptized share their testimony. So not only are you adding the baptism portion, but there's a public speaking portion. So not a lot of students wanted to get baptized because of that. And seeing a student kind of brave that insecurity of standing up in front of the church and saying, this is why I want to do this, and then being able to kind of bring them through the waters of baptism, I mean, just it'll make me weep.
Yeah.
Still now years later, will just is super moving.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. All
I
right.
would say just encountering God and seeing people get to encounter God is so incredible. Like, we're all a part of so many services, and so much of that has worship in it. And when, again, we're just facilitators, right? Like,
Right.
it is all God moving in that moment, and the person having God move in their heart, and getting to see that happen, see them come to the throne and say, I'm here just to be devoted to you, God. It can really blow you away to be like, okay, I did so much planning, so much work, none of it mattered. It was all God brought him there. God brought her down to the front. God made that happen. God made that baptism happen more than anything we did.
Right.
And also something that is just as shocking and that I never thought is, like, again, we do all that work to try to facilitate these things. And we didn't actually do it. Again, it was God made those things happen, and we just got to be a part of the cog of the machine that turned inside of them. So anytime we get to see someone like have that light bulb moment, that click, that like, oh, I feel you, God. I know you're there. My confidence is more than it's ever been in you. Whew. Excellent. An
Keeps you
excellent
going.
moment. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I got to piggyback on that. I love that light bulb moment where people have already given themselves over. They've already decided who they're going to follow and submit to. But there are still things that, in the search, because our search is going to continue on until, the end. Those who endure to the end will be saved. So when you see the light turn on, because I don't consider myself too much of a preacher, but a teacher. And when you see that understanding turn on, when, they get that look, and that light turn on, I get so much satisfaction from that. Not that I did anything, but I did my part, to be able to say no. Some of those things that have been bounding you up, because see, some people are still people who said things to them and gave them an identity or something about them that's a hang up. And to see God unbind that and the Holy Spirit work and untie that knot in them, and they say, oh, well, that's not who I am. And I do have the power to overcome because he said so. I'm so attracted to that. And so when as I teach and lead discussion, that is my goal, to watch the Holy Spirit untie that knot in them, in their personhood, in their mind, and in their identity, to say, I am because he is.
Yeah.
And I just love it.
That's so good. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I know we could probably we could do this for hours. I
Oh,
know we
yeah.
could go around and just talk.
Get a bunch
and
of pastors together.
I say get some. I know, right? That's like the it's always the joke of like, all right, so really briefly,
Yeah.
I say we're pat. It's just not. It's just an occupational hazard. But we should do this. We'll have to do this again here pretty soon because I got a whole bunch of other things I want to just pick your all's brains about. But thank you guys for taking some time, joining us on Lunch Break. Thank you all for watching Lunch Break, for being a part. Don't forget about Cookies with the Calls this Sunday, right after second service. We're going to have you join us for that. And then also the Falcons game that's coming up in in August, I think. The
coming
game
up
is in
soon.
August,
Coming
but
up
the
soon.
sign up, you got to do the signups. We got to get signups because if we don't have enough people sign up, we're not going to be able to get the tickets. So we need you, if you're going to come, we need you to go ahead and get on the app and register to go. It's going to be fantastic. I know you're signed up.
Yes.
I'm there. I'm bringing my family. It's going to be a blast. I've not watched a football game at the Benz, so I'm pretty jazzed about that.
And they're playing my Titans, so
I know.
Oh, so you're going to be repping.
That's
another
right.
team.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm a Broncos fan, so I'm just used to losing everything. So like I'm just like I'll get to watch somebody win, and it's just that'll be fun. So I'm pretty excited about that. We'd love to have you join us for that. Go check that out on the app. Everything is on the app. We say that all the time, but make sure you go to the app, go check it out. Thank you so much for watching with us on Lunch Break. Thank you, Pastor Stacy, Pastor Ryan, Pastor Josh. Really appreciate you guys. I love that we get to do ministry together. Super good. All right. Thank you all.